Alrighty everyone, welcome back. I hope you're all having an amazing weekend and Saturday. There's a lot of things happening between Disney, Lucasfilm, and of course Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, really still dealing with the shakeup between himself, the executives, the board, and more, and exactly where Star Wars and Marvel is heading is really a big thing in progress as we speak. And given that Kathleen Kennedy is still to this day having issues with Skeleton Crew and the Acolyte, it does raise a couple of concerns for those two shows. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, with actor Pedro Pascal, alright, coming back for The Mandalorian Season 4, however, has been running into a lot of issues with a specific Star Wars show that he was fired from and let go from by Kathleen Kennedy. There's more to the story that we will actually be discussing based on what recently had happened a couple of weeks ago for two very big scenes that was going to be a callback to the prequel trilogy as well as mixing things together with the character of djarin. Now, the thing about all of this is that we know that Pedro Pascal has been wanting to have more and more unmasking scenes, basically where he has a lot more face reveals to get the limelight that he deserves, to get the recognition that he wants in the Mandalorian series or any kind of Mandoverse project out there. And that brings us to the latest with Kathleen Kennedy. Now, we do know that she's been causing and creating quite a stir when it comes to one project in particular, that of course being Skeleton Crew. Now, for those of you that don't know, Skeleton Crew is a Mandoverse era project that Din Djarin, as a character, was supposed to be in, portrayed by Pedro Pascal, before he was fired. He partially shot some scenes before he was let go. Now, with Kathleen Kennedy recently struggling with Skeleton Crew and the Acolyte still to this day, she recently made a very controversial decision for actor Pedro Pascal relating to one of her projects, that of course being Skeleton, that she fired him from making some big-time cameos. Kennedy behind the scenes reportedly not only wanted to downgrade Pedro's pay by labeling him as a voice actor as we discussed yesterday, but she was also very underwhelmed with Pedro's performance in the Skeleton Crew show and was actually firing him and pushing him to deliver key lines of dialogue that Pedro refused to do since he knew the fans would find the dialogue way too out of place for Star Wars. Now, this is the other side of the creative struggles that came to play where Pedro was refusing to say certain lines of dialogue that both Kennedy and John Watts created for his cameos. Pedro thought the dialogue was so bad it was going to destroy his reputation in the Star Wars community and urged Kennedy to write certain lines out. She refused, to say the least, and this was where Kennedy finally considered it was time to let him go and replace him with a far younger character such as Ragnar coming into the story to take on the pirates. Ragnar, by the way, is the son of Paz Vizsla. Now, here's the thing about this, is that these lines of dialogue that Pedro did not agree with was just like the final nail in the coffin for him, it seems. It's what really set off Kathleen Kennedy, him kind of really challenging what she was allowing John Watts to write for Skeleton Crew is the real thing that really collapsed this entire situation. Now, the thing about Kathleen Kennedy is that it seems like you can never really argue with her, you can never critique her, you can never challenge her, or even, at the very least, call out some of the big mistakes that are about to be done in some of the movies or the shows. So basically, the rundown on all of this is that these lines of dialogue that, of course, Pedro was demanded to provide as Din Djarin were described to be heavily comedic, with lots of comedic relief. And this is something that he did not want to do. He felt it was going to destroy his character, it was going to displace him in the Star Wars community. And you know what? I'm actually glad that he stuck up for himself. And yeah, I mean, maybe not everybody agrees with Pedro's views on the world through social media, and that's fine, but he deserves to be treated right, in my opinion. I stand by that. And for something like this, where you have somebody like Kathleen Kennedy that would literally just change the character's nature into a comedic relief character, just really goes to show you exactly how misguided she really is, how she's just so in touch with her own bubble within how Star Wars is supposed to be, and it just doesn't really provide any kind of remedy at all. It just worsens and tarnishes the whole situation. But I'm moving on, of course. Now, the scene that Pedro partially shot before he was fired from Skeleton Crew was described to be so full of comedy relief that it was a night and day difference to how Din Djarin acts in The Mandalorian Season 1 through 3 and Book of Boba. Given that Skeleton Crew will be very comedic and very comedy heavy, she wanted to turn Din into a more comedic relief character with Grogu in the story, something that Pedro also heavily disagreed with during production. Additionally, Kennedy was very picky with the takes that were being done for the cameos of Pedro as Din, and was getting too hot in the suit and demanded to have unmasking scenes, and she refused. Pedro's scenes were taking place, surprisingly, within the city of Theed, as seen in the prequel trilogy era, where this time the pirates will be invading this area to locate the Skeleton Crew, who obtain something that belongs to the pirates. Now, this does make a lot of sense because you guys may recall that they were at the same exact filming location where they shot Theed a couple of months back, and how that was actually a very big moment for Skeleton Crew. Alright, it's also reportedly going to show up, by the way, in Andor Season 2, Theed coming back into the equation. Seems like they want to make more and more prequel trilogy callbacks. The thing about this, though, that really kind of just makes me very underwhelmed about Skeleton Crew is that it's going to be a very extremely comedic series. And given that the trailer that was shown at Celebration may have not shown that, it is going to be. That's basically their approach. This is going to be basically like the Goonies versus Star Wars. And yeah, I mean, it could work, but I just don't think it would have worked with Din Djarin in the picture. I don't know what Kathleen Kennedy was thinking by throwing him into this equation, but at the same exact time, he wasn't treated right, in my opinion. Now, the thing about this, too, that fans need to realize is that the pirates are going to be like the main villains, or at least one of the main villainous groups in Skeleton Crew, alright? And if you guys did not like the pirates, you're probably not going to like Skeleton Crew. And we're not quite sure exactly just yet where it takes place. They're still trying to figure out that timeline, whether or not it takes place before or after Season 4 of The Mandalorian, since John and Dave are still fine-tuning the time jump for that season. Also, it's worth noting, this is why we have yet to have gotten a release date, by the way, because of all the setbacks and delays and reshoots, including the Pascal situation. And regardless, the show says it's coming out in 2023, but there's no release date yet, which is pretty surprising. It's all due in part because of this. So, with Ahsoka coming out in August, if they get Skeleton Crew finished on time, you should expect it to drop around November to December the latest. Most likely in December if they really want to push things to its limits. So, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this. The fact that Kennedy was close to turning Din into a comedic relief character. Look, him getting let go by Kennedy may have been a blessing in disguise, we could look at it that way, but I'm still, very much, seeing this as an unfortunate case for Pedro Pascal. So, anyways, guys, drop a comment below, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, drop a comment below and let me know what you guys have to say about this entire scenario between Pedro and Kathy, and I'll catch you guys next time.